Hijab crackdown. France's Olympic ban sparks outrage. The upcoming 2024, well, it's now the ongoing 2024 Paris Olympics have ignited a global controversy over France's decision to ban its athletes from wearing hijabs during the Games, sparking outrage from human rights organizations and the United Nations. Amnesty International released a report condemning this policy as discriminatory and a violation of Muslim women's rights, challenging France's interpretation of secularism or laïcité. The ban has been criticized for contradicting the Olympic spirit and international human rights treaties. Anna Blues, I don't know how to pronounce this name. It has a very strange accent on it. From Amnesty International, highlighted the controversy of this. Excuse me, my headphone came off. The woman from Amnesty International highlighted the hypocrisy of the situation, stating, quote, "We find this to be very hypocritical to say that you care about women's equality and women's participation in sports, while at the same time effectively banning Muslim women who wear hijab and other forms of religious clothing from participating in these games." While the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, has confirmed that athletes from other countries can wear religious symbols, including hijabs, the ban remains in place for French athletes who are considered civil servants by the French state. This controversy underscores the ongoing tensions between religious freedom and France's strict interpretation of secularism, raising questions about inclusivity and discrimination in international sports events. So, okay, let me do a quick recap. So, basically, it is well known and established that France has very strict interpretations of secularism, and this shows up most often in the realm of civil servants. And if civil servants are allowed to, um, have any form of displays of faith, and the answer is like no. And so, public school teachers can't wear hijabs, like judges, clerks, whatever. They can't wear a kippah. They can't have, I don't know, like a Sikh turban or a kirpan, like no religious symbols if you are in any way, shape, or form representing the French state. Over time, France has then moved this into the realm of sports. So we've covered over the years when there has been renewed controversy over France not allowing its athletes when representing France in international arenas or international competitions, they're not allowed to wear the hijab. And this has been a source of great controversy, and this just extended into the Olympics, given that France is the host country. And um basically we've covered this before, like when France first implemented its policy that female athletes that are representing France and other international competitions can't wear the hijab, because they made all these weird excuses about how it's like not safe and can interfere with the athlete's ability to play, which I thought was so stupid. Like, they were literally implying that there's gonna be some freak accident where you get, like, choked out by your hijab when you're in the middle of playing football. Like, I'm like, "Cut the bullshit." Like, just be honest, you just don't want this religious symbol. Don't
Which is a good reason.
Yeah, but, like, don't make it some, like, oh my god, like, a cartoonish imagination of, like, I'm gonna trip and fall, and then, like, someone's gonna step on the cloth, and I'm gonna choke out on my air pipe, like, it just that because there were
Right.
some people trying to, like, have that reasoning, and I was like, "That seems like a total nonsense excuse, just be honest
Right.
here." Um and yeah, so this is extended into the Paris Olympics, and Amnesty International has put out a report condemning this, and said that it is not okay that France was allowed to continue with this, even though they are the host country. Um, and I can give a little bit more background, but Armin, let's hear your initial thoughts.
So yeah, I don't like the safety excuse. That seems like a excuse. But here's a better reason for why France should be allowed not to allow the hijab in on any of the people who are representing France is because they're representing France. And hijab does not represent France. That's the whole point of you being there, is to represent France. And yeah, hijab is not a reflection of France. This is the most secular country on the planet. They're so secular they don't even call them secular. They have another name for it. They call it laïcité. And you think that country that is so sensitive about religion, people with hijab are the best representatives of it? Obviously not. So yeah, ban it for that reason. Like, yeah, you are here to show the world what France is, and this isn't it. That's the reason why they should remove the. But I have a couple of questions regarding what you said. A couple of um, nitpicking here, because these
Mhm.
women, so people were complaining about, like you say about your women, you're for women equality. Then why are you not allowing the hijab? What are you talking about? That the exact being for women equality is the exact reason why you shouldn't be allowing the hijab. Do you see these other women having certain privileges about what they get to wear because of their ideology? No. So we're treating you equally to the other women and other men. That's what equality is. Equality means you don't get privileges because of your religion. That is how. I don't understand the argument. Somebody was, you were reading, somebody saying like, this is not equality. How is this not equality? This is you being equal to the other woman in the field. Can somebody explain to me how this is not equality? Can you explain that to me, because I don't get it. Anyways, I have two other
Well,
problems. But go on.
it's kind of this contention over France's interpretation of what is and is not religious freedom and kind of the rest of the world, not the entirety of the rest of the world's interpretation of what is religious freedom. Because obviously there are more countries than not that don't believe in religious freedom. Um, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit torn on this. But it has to do with my contention has to do with the broader conception of this philosophy in general and less about the specific sports. Because if you want to fight this, then you really have to tackle, okay, should these athletes be considered civil servants or not? Um because in the realm of just, oh, should a judge have religious symbols? Should a police officer have religious symbols? Should a court clerk have religious symbols? I definitely feel way more sympathetic towards like, no, I don't like that. Um, but realistically, like, what is I don't know. I feel way
Yeah,
less of an
here
issue.
I actually
And
feel more sympathy here because
it's
okay, I
it
will
comes
wait
down to
until you're done.
freedom of choice.
Yeah, this is not a violation of people's freedom of religion or freedom of choice, because you are completely free not to be an Olympic athlete, right? You could wear your hijab and not be an Olympic athlete. Like, how is your freedom of religion being violated? This is actually a more. Here's the thing: there are more police officers and more judges than Olympic athletes. If anybody is representing a country, is your on an international stage, is your Olympic athletes. This is like, these are the people who are out there. Their job is to represent this country. So if you're worried about a police officer representing the state and wearing a hijab, and that's another reflection of the state, well, this is the one time in 4 years that your country and your state is being represented internationally the most. If it makes sense over there, it obviously makes sense over here. You're completely free to wear the hijab, but not here. Like, what is that even? How is that even debatable? How is this a violation of your freedom of religion? You don't get to have your freedom of religion. That doesn't mean that you're entitled to practice your religion everywhere that you everywhere, and everybody had to submit to your needs based on your religious practices. You could practice them in your home, in public areas, in your mosque. Nobody is taking that away from you, right? it's a simple example is like, hey, do I have the freedom of speech to swear? For example, like, if can I say the F word? Is that illegal? No, it's not illegal. I have the freedom to say the F word. Is my freedom of speech violated if I swear at my boss at work and I get fired for it? No, that's not a violation of your freedom of speech. That's the freedom of your boss to hire the person who is not swearing at him. That's his freedom. Okay. And this is your freedom, and that's his freedom. So, do you have the freedom to wear the hijab? Yes, you do have the freedom to wear the hijab. Does the Olympics have the freedom to not allow you to be an Olympic athlete if you're wearing the hijab, if you insist on wearing the hijab while performing? Yes, that's their freedom. Also, that's their freedom. They're like, yeah, this is not what we want here. It's completely okay. These are completely in line with each other. I just want to also highlight. Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
I also want to highlight the selective outrage here, okay? Because these people that you're mentioning, they're like, oh my God, freedom of religion, discrimination against women. Were they? Maybe they were. I don't know. You tell me. Were they also sounding like raising this outrage about the Iranian team, where the women have to wear the hijab? Hmm? Like, were they saying? Were they talking about their religious freedom when women are forced to? All the staff of the women of the team from Iran, every single one of them has to wear the hijab. Were they mentioning that? Or is it only an outrage when you're not allowing the hijab? When you're forcing the hijab, because that's a more violation of your right than this. Were they
So
outraged about that? Oh,
this specific report was only about France that they put out. I mean, the Amnesty International, for example, but Amnesty International in general has covered the issue of mandatory mandatory hijab in Iran extensively. But this specific
I
report
know,
was just
but
about France.
over the Olympics, Amnesty International, over this Olympics, because I know they cover everything, but I'm saying selected, some things are highlighted more than other things, right? So here's an example. On the Olympics, are they also coming out and talking about women's rights and freedom of religion and the violation of all of that on the Iranian team, where all the women coming there have to wear the hijab? And I'm talking about the staff.
Mm,
No.
let me do a quick browse to make sure I didn't miss it.
Okay.
It it
And here's
it the answer is no. The answer is no.
Okay. Yeah, like that. That's what I thought. And also, what even if you focus on the French team, do people get upset over freedom of religion when you can't wear a turban or a kippah or anything cross related, Christian related? Why is everyone gets reminded of the freedom of religion only when Islam all of a sudden gets involved? Can somebody explain that to me?
Yeah. Well, and this is something that I think is so interesting is that when you find report because I was reading many different articles about this, and they keep on talking about how France's laïcité disproportionately affects Muslim women. And I'm like, I think that that is such a false framing of the situation. It's that France has had this interpretation of laissez-faire for a very long time. They have, in recent decades, clarified it more and more and has become stricter and stricter. But it is the practice of hijab that is the larger display of religion, and so they're it is like this is what it is, and then a new practice comes in that is more visible and more controversial than others. And so what is it disproportionately affecting? It has always been here. They're applying the rule. They are applying the rule, but because this practice is just more visible and more obligatory than others, then that means that it's disproportionately affecting the hijab. I don't think I'm totally articulating
Let,
myself very well right
let
now,
me help.
but
Let me help. laicity was disproportionately affecting the Catholic faith before, when the Catholic faith was up in your life and your politics, until it wasn't. So the reason why laicity is affecting Islam these days more, because Islam is trying to dominate your personal life and trying to get into politics. Obviously, laicity would be aggressive more against the threat that is trying to be more dominant and is, that is everywhere, that is trying to influence personal life and politics. What this is so oh, laicity affects Islam more. Laicity destroyed the Catholic Church's influence. What are you talking about?
Dude, yeah, yeah,
Laicity,
yeah, 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 yeah.
the only reason why it's focusing on Islam now is because the the Catholic Church has been completely, defanged by laicity. Like, look, go. I think the Catholic
They had to
Church,
take a step back several centuries ago, okay? Like,
yeah, I think the Catholic Church is crying, injured in the corner, and they might have something to say about. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe get back, maybe retreat, maybe stop interfering in people's lives, and then laicite will not have much to say about you. Maybe you are the problem. That's why the focus needs to be on you.
and
Unbelievable.
here's the thing. I think there is some room for criticism. Like last time we were talking about this, I can't remember what the result of our conversation was, but there was a lot of people in the live chat talking about like, well, you technically can have religious tattoos visible only if they're a certain size, and certain little necklaces are allowed. And I think if you're going to have a good faith criticism, it's like realistically Christianity is treated as a default within French society, and so it's not treated exactly the same way because it's like, like for example, if you go to a public school here, this is not a perfect analogy, but like if you go to a public school here in the United States, we're going to have an extended winter break around Christmas time, but we're not allowed to call it Christmas break anymore because that's specific to Christianity. But we have now this extended winter break that just happens to fall over Christmas time to celebrate the Christian holiday. So it's essentially treated as a default. You know what I mean? Versus other religions, they're not going to have basically the school year structured around their religious holidays. Like, I don't know, if you want to celebrate Nowruz, you're not going to have a 2-week break in the middle of March, the same way that by default, everyone gets like a several week break around the Christian holiday. So it's a similar kind of issue where it's like, well, the society is structured around kind of by default holidays or practices that originated from one
Yeah.
specific religion.
Well, the solution is not to bring in more religion. The solution is to make it not religion related. So, for example, give people flexible holidays. I don't know, this many days of holidays that you could use whenever you want to use it on Christmas. Use it on Christmas. You want to use it in Ramadan. Use it on Ramadan. You're an atheist and you just want to use it on whenever. Just use it whenever. The solution to having religion is not to add more religions. The solution is to just reduce the other religions.
I think this also brings up an issue that is much larger that has to do with France evolving and dealing with this ongoing issue of integrating an immigrant population into the French identity, so to speak. And because France has the largest population of Muslims in Western Europe, I believe it's about 10% of the population based on what I was reading to prepare for the show. And there I read a lot of reports about people saying, I feel like I have to choose between being French and being Muslim. And Armin was saying, oh, well, you have freedom of religion because if wearing the hijab is such a big thing for you, you are free to not be an athlete. And a lot of people are saying, like, to me, that's discriminatory. I don't want to have to choose between participating at a high level in the sport that I love because I want to be an athlete and my faith. One shouldn't come at the cost of another. I can still participate at a high level and just have this practice and just move on and be an athlete. You know what I mean? And they're like, I
You
am being
can't.
forced to choose between these parts of my identity. And so, for example, this athlete that we have in the thumbnail right here, she's a French athlete that left for America so that she could still pursue her athletic career and then wear the hijab. So, athletes, or there's many instances of people leaving France in general because they feel like it's incompatible. And so they just completely opt out. And some people would say, good, please do opt out. But over time, it is becoming a very difficult question of what does religious pluralism mean in France nowadays? And is this actually getting in the way of people feeling like they can be both French and Muslim? Because I was reading an article about like the issue of hijab in schools. And I was reading a profile of a private Islamic school in France. And basically at this private Islamic school, because it's not public, students are allowed to wear the hijab. And it was all these students, mostly from North African backgrounds, talking about how they felt so much more comfortable at this school. And there were girls running around with hijab, and the boys and girls were together. And then there were girls not wearing hijab, hair going free. But they could wear either if they felt like it. And they were talking about how here I actually feel comfortable. Here I actually feel like I have freedom versus at the French school, I feel like I'm being told that I don't belong. And so that's going to be a contention that France continues to have. I mean, and the private Islamic schools are still mandated to teach the values of the republic to students. They just have more flexibility about the issue of students not being able to wear the hijab. Um, and this is a major contention. Go ahead.
All right. So okay. So I'm gonna keep a. I didn't. My position is not that I want you to feel both French and Muslim. That's not my position. My position is that I want you to feel French and less Muslim. Less, not that they're equal identities. I want your Muslim identity to be less and less important to you, and your French identity to be, not that they're both equally, not that we're valuing them both equally. In fact, one of them we are fighting against, the other one we're trying to promote. So that, there's that. And also with regards to people saying I want to be able to be a high performing athlete and also wear the hijab. Well, you can do that. You can still do that. But the Olympics is not, because they can't. She is doing that. But the Olympics is not just about being a high performing athlete. The Olympics is also about representing your country. So what you want is very small compared to what the purpose of the Olympics is, right? And again, we have to remember that athletes that get to compete in the Olympics are a very small percentage of the population. So if we're talking about participating as Muslim in activities, whether high performing athletes or anything else, everything is completely open to them. This is a very narrow, small percentage of athletes that are picked to represent their country. Whatever the priority should be what represents this country, not what just a handful of individuals are going to feel, because we have opened the door for them to feel like they're part of this community, part of France, in so many different other ways. The fact that she has gotten to this, being a Muslim and getting this far, shows how so many doors are open to you as a Muslim in France anyways, for you to get this far. You not being able to take the last step and wanting to go to another team is actually you being extremely ungrateful. a country that has given you so many opportunities and opened so many doors to you, you just not being able to take the last step, and now you go play for the other team because of that, you're just being ungrateful. The Olympics is not about you. The Olympics is about France. With regards to children wearing hijab in elementary school, um, I am I am more in favor of what France is doing, but I'm always in favor of empiricism over rationalism. I'm in favor of seeing what would get these girls out of Islam, not out of their Muslim identity being their main identity faster, right? So if it's shown empirically that hijabi girls playing next to more children from a more liberal-minded parents playing next to each other will get these girls out of their Muslim identity faster because they feel free to come to school and play next to them. If that is proven empirically, I will switch sides. Okay, but right now I'm still on the no hijab in elementary school team, on that. But if it's shown whatever gets them out of whatever makes them devalue their Muslim identity faster and their French identity more, whatever gets us there faster, I'm in favor of that, because I might sit here and theorize and think this works, but if empirical data shows that I'm wrong, I will completely agree with you and switch teams on that.
Yeah, it's difficult because in this issue, especially when it comes to the schools and stuff, like there are going and there have been and there is a documented trend of women opting out of certain forms of education for the sake of maintaining hijab. And it's like, is that what we really want? Because that's probably going to keep them more Islamic for longer. Like this is an issue we talked about when in the huge hijab controversy in India and Karnataka, where it's because in India their ability to enforce these things is like totally different versus I know like France is really strict about like no homeschooling, no religious homeschooling, that kind of thing. Um and in a country like India, it's like if you're telling girls that they cannot wear hijab like in educational institutions, like that's going to be a huge impact on women receiving more education, which is more likely to help them find more opportunity, have more economic incentives that could ultimately like lead them out of a more highly conservative form of the practice. At the heart of this is kind of an contention with the fact that like Christianity is more of a belief based system and Islam is very much focused on practice. And so just by its very nature, that is always going to be more highly contentious. And under a system like this, Islam is always going to take more of a hit, so to speak. But this is part of how the French government has decided to rule itself. And I don't know, ultimately, like, you can make a choice to leave, although, the practicalities of that is very, like, I guess,
I don't.
class-based or
By the way,
opportunity-based, but
do we know that French, like, because in France you don't have the option of not sending your children to school, right?
no,
When
no,
we
no.
saying like, okay, so when we're saying like, I don't know, for example, in America you have little hijabi girls playing next to non-hijabi girls and they're having fun. If you don't let those girls not wear their hijab, it's not those little girls that will be upset. It's their parents that are going to be upset. The girls are going to still play with the other girls without their hijab. So why are we saying like, oh my God, look, this is so beautiful. The hijabi girls are wearing with the non-hijabi girls. Well, I'm pretty sure in France, where that girl doesn't get to wear the hijab, she's going to play with the other girls anyways, with the children from the non-Muslim family. They're going to have fun and play around anyways. The only person that is uneasy about this is the parent, not the little girl.
But
So I don't know whether
this continues into the university level, at which point a young woman could voluntarily
it
opt out
won't if
on the
you don't let
basis
them
of
wear the
this.
hijab in elementary school, because now she's used to it. it will continue. It will only continue to university if you give her a Muslim identity. If
That's
you
not
strip her
necessarily
away from,
true.
well, I
That's not
mean, if the
necessarily true.
parent,
We're already
this is the
seeing that
war.
trend.
No, yeah, yeah, not necessarily true. I'm not saying it's always true. I'm just saying this is the war between the Muslim parent and the state. If the Muslim parent is successful, then it will continue. If the state is successful in giving that child a French identity instead of a Muslim identity, then it will not continue to university. By the way, somebody is very disgusted. So, Susie, you know how sometimes people here disagree with you, and I just wanted to star the people here who find what I'm saying disgusting, so that you see it's not just you. It's not just you. Okay, it's me as
Oh my
well.
god. No, I know, I know. Um,
I know.
there are some things that France does along this vein that I frankly just disagree with. So example, like, let me be clear, everyone, like, I don't like the niqab. I don't like the practice of veiling the face for obvious reasons. But France patently banning the niqab in public, I don't think I can support. I don't like that
I
much state
I
intervention.
support.
No, because the argument used to be it was about security, especially like during the early 2000s when there were terrorist attacks around Europe like constantly. Well, not constantly, but frequently. That's one thing. But then we had COVID and then everyone was covering their face and we were made to cover our
Yeah.
face. So then there's this excuse. And then stuff like last year we talked about how France has banned the abaya in schools. For those who are not familiar, the abaya is a if it's basically like a robe kind of that it's usually long and has a kind of a tie in the front that you know, women from Muslim cultures typically wear. And they banned the abaya in schools. And I'm like, I don't know if I can square that because that form of clothing is not inherently religious. How can you just ban the abaya and saying that it's a form of religiosity, religious symbolism, without essentially profiling students on the basis of their background? Because if a little white French girl was running around wearing one of these long robes, would you automatically think that it's an abaya in a form of religiosity? Like, that's much harder to square for me. Stuff like that is like really tenuous for me.
I mean, an abaya is clearly looks like an abaya and not like a robe, so it's not that hard to be honest. But regarding COVID, um, I don't see a contradiction here. This is a security issue, so we don't allow it. But now, when there's COVID, now we have a bigger security issue. So, in this meantime, that security issue is more of a concern than the other security issue. The COVID security issue is more concerned than the terrorism security issue when it comes to the number of victims. And now that COVID is gone, we go back to caring about the terrorism security issue. I don't see any flaw in. I don't see any contradiction here.
I don't know. I just have some
Mm.
reservations. That's all I'm saying. Because
Okay.
I do have a I call myself a libertarian sympathizer. I'm not a full blown libertarian. Some of them I think are just too delusional for me.
It's good.
Uh, I'm a libertarian sympathizer, and so like that level of intervention of the government into private citizens' lives, including in public, not even within government institutions, I start to get a little bit wary about. I have reservations about that.
Jack, I didn't say COVID is gone. I'm saying the security concern to that level is gone. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Anyways, by the way, even if we disagree, Susie, you being sensitive about government overreach is a amazing is important to be sensitive about. You know what I mean? I mean, this is important. Like, I'm glad that you're sensitive about that. Like, even if sometimes our conclusions are not the same, I see your point, and your point is important. Should we do the super chats?
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, look at this. This is exactly what I'm saying. Kenny's saying, I love how you balance each other. Yes.
Aw, thank you,
Ah,
Kenny. That's sweet.
yes.
Yeah, and like this is something that I continue to chew over, and I haven't reached a complete conclusion within myself. So you guys are really just seeing me think out loud and kind of mull over these contentions I'm having. Um, okay, so let's go through the super chats. Oh, Unicorn was saying you guys deserve it and more 100K coming soon. Oh, that's so sweet. Um, Inshallah, we will hit 100K. The Atheist Republic Army is growing, which is a good reminder to everyone to please like this stream, subscribe.
Yes.
If you are watching us on Twitter, because we always have a disproportionate amount of people watching us on Twitter, make sure to come follow us and subscribe on YouTube, where we cover a lot more content. And yeah, then you can actually engage with us in the live chat instead of these ghosts
Yeah,
just
we are
watching
actually
on
growing.
Twitter.
I'm not making this up. Okay, we are actually growing because you guys like the stream. It's the likes that gets us growing this fast. So thank you.
Um, okay, so let's go to the next item. Gasian American is saying, did you hear about the drag queen Last Supper? So Gasian American is talking about part of the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics. Of course I did. How could I not? I'm considering making this a segment next week, like covering all of the backlash and butthurt against this next week. Um, Frankly, my initial reaction is like, why is anyone surprised? This is the French. Like, if you are legit, like, oh my God, the French did something like flamboyant and subversive and like kind of hard to understand and like very bizarre and artistic. Like, shocking. Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's the French. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is like a very American take, because I was talking to my dad about this and he was like, "Oh yeah, why are we surprised? It's the French."
Yeah, I mean
And
the French love their blasphemy.
exactly. And he was like, 20 years
It
ago,
wasn't.
I went on a business trip to Nice, and we went out for the night drinking with my business partners, and we went to some bar, and there was an art show happening where there were a bunch of grown men dressed up as cows. So I'm not surprised by anything the French do.
Yeah, but it wasn't good art. Like okay, so I'm not. I love blasphemy, and I like sex and art, and putting that together, I love blasphemous, sexy art. But I also like it when it's done. It wasn't. It didn't look good. I like sexy art when it uses sex in a beautiful, pleasing way,
You're just
and I
saying
also
that
love
because the woman was morbidly obese.
Well, I mean, I've seen Renaissance art of chubby woman that looks good. I just think it looked like cheap. It looked cheap. That's what I'm saying. It looked like you have like the Olympics. I'm assuming that there's like a crap ton of money behind this, and a whole bunch of advisors. I don't like this could have been done
Yeah.
so much more elegantly. And it didn't look elegant. It looked cheap. It looked like it looked like a high school project. That's what I didn't like. I don't mind the blasphemy. I don't mind sex and art. I love sex and art. I mean, we have blasphemous art, which is sexy. That's what we do. But if I had the budget of Olympics and they asked me to do a blasphemous sexy art, I would have offered you something so much more beautiful. Like, what the hell was that? I don't know.
Um It's Okay, guys, tell us in the live chat if you want us to cover this next week in detail, because I actually have a lot more that I want to say about it.
Can we? Is this guy swearing at you? Can we ban? Is that Mir
Ew.
Bahman? Is he swearing at Susanna? Do you want me to highlight that and also ban that person?
No, I don't care about that. Yeah, that's the least of my concerns. Um so let's go to the next super chat. John Bundock is saying, hot take, why make athletes civil servants anyways? This is a good question, and this was going back to what was that, Armin?
I want to ban this guy.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Um, so anyways, um basically they're civil servants in the sense that they're representing the French state in an international arena. Um, but yeah, I think there's a little bit of contention to that. I don't really think of athletes as civil servants in the typical sense. Um, Kenny gave a super chat. Thank you, Kenny, saying, "Are those Olympic athletes allowed to wear ideological symbols like political parties, etc.? If that's not allowed, use the same reason to ban religious symbols because it's also an ideology." And you're right. This actually is a good point in which we privilege religious ideologies over other ideologies because you are not allowed to wear ideological symbols in regards to political parties. You're only allowed to be like representing your nation. Um, and other symbols aren't really allowed. Although I
I'm
wonder if
angry.
they're
Can
allowed
I
pride
can I
flags.
highlight that? Can I highlight that the person that I banned, and I also comment on it? Is that okay? Because this guy is
Go ahead.
insane. Look at this. Mayor Bahman is saying, "Why not insult Islam? You, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube. Like you swear word, Susanna.
You
Okay,
can call me a whore.
what are you?
Armin can
What the hell is Susanna makes blasphemous art against Islam? The most insulting blasphemous art against Islam. Susanna makes the most beautiful blasphemous insulting art against Islam. I don't know what you're talking about. Susanna tore apart the Quran live on air and
we
licked the
literally
Quran
have
before
an
telling
emoji of me licking the Quran.
guys. Can the people who are members can they use Susanna emoji with her licking the Quran? Can you guys do that in the live chat? What are you? She's braver than all of you. Oh my god.
Dude, it's so funny. No, and that's why like it doesn't bother me at all because it's just like so like I know myself better. Like, oh, Susanna, you wouldn't dare say anything about Islam. And I'm like, okay, sweetie.
What are you talking about?
Um, Also, I love Dolly, our amazing mod and member of our community, literally cooking, and I stopped everything to see who the fuck dared to swear at our Susie.
Yeah, and
Dolly is
also
so
Zeta
sweet.
saying, no, seriously, Susanna is the red line. Fuck off, asshole.
She must be protected. Um,
Yeah, I wish I could
uh,
highlight the Quran like that people. Guys, when I
I
highlight your
know.
emojis, this is what shows. Guys, look at the live chat. It's amazing, the emojis.
But then
Yeah.
if you have our emojis on Twitch, they actually show up properly on StreamYard.
Show, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not fair. Okay, so Gasian American had a super chat saying, if I started a Voltaire Confucianism that celebrated French civic institutions whose religious dress is French attire, would that be outlawed? You know,
If I,
if Gasian American started a religious cult and like actually had to force civic institutions to deal with the minutia of his esoteric ideologies, I would pay money to see how people untangle that. you know, my friend, I do not know what the Republic of France would do with a creature like you. Sid Dave gave a super chat saying, imagine leaving the US, no, leaving for the US from France because you want to put on a headscarf. Why not go to a Muslim nation? This is a Muslim attempt to run a parallel society. I don't think personally that one athlete that decides to go to UC Davis so she can go play basketball while wearing a hijab as an individual is trying to run a parallel society. Also, if you're
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to run an Islamic separatist society within the US, it's not going to be that easy. Now, we can have a separate discussion about how much Islamist financing is in the United States, which is a whole separate question. But
yeah. I don't think that criticism is valid. But the criticism that I think is valid is you being ungrateful to the country that gave you all the opportunities to become a great athlete.
okay, so let's go. Then we have another super chat from John Bundock saying, I am proud to be an American with my First Amendment rights. That's right. Hell yeah, brother. Um
This is yeah.
just
By the way,
America
France
posting
also
in the live chat.
let me defend yeah, salute to you and America, but let me also mention that France gives you the freedom to wear the hijab, okay? But it doesn't give you the privilege to wear the hijab in everywhere
Public
in government,
institutions. Yeah.
public institution, and the Olympics. But all France also give you the freedom to wear the hijab.
Okay. Cajun American gave a super chat saying France attempted to enforce a 10-day week once. In what context? Like a holiday thing? Or like, no, we're just making weeks 10 days now?
Yeah,
I
France
need
also
to know
tried to
more.
get off the Christian calendar. They're so anti-Christian that they were trying to get off the Christian calendar. That's what they were trying
Okay,
to
you know what? Like they make an effort to
do.
remove themselves
Yeah.
from that. I'm not saying that they're doing it because, like I said, there is this issue of like kind of a historical background of Christianity being the basis for a lot of things, but they're making an effort sometimes to like step away from that. That's commendable. They're trying to be consistent, but making that big of a switch is going to be real tough. We're moving from 7 to 10. The rest of the world can suck it. Like what? um the cat lady gave 6 shekels saying, Armin, can you explain what is takia? Thank you. Quickly explain what takia is.
Okay, well, I don't know if you want that. I could do an entire stream on this. And do you want the Sunni version or the Shia version? I mean, the Sunni version is not that uh, problematic. It's not like the Sunni version is like, hey, if your life is in danger, just give a white lie and say whatever you need to stay alive. So it's not that big of a deal, right? The Shia version is that plus an additional part, which is a lot of Sunnis also have a problem with, is that you can lie even if your life is not in danger, but if it's in the benefit of Islam, right? But also, but be careful with this because most Muslims are not aware of this at all. Like most Sunni or Shia Muslim, like don't think like, oh, this means that I can never trust believe a Muslim. This is a scholarly thing that just a few Muslims are aware of that have studied this thing. This is not something that Muslims are like, oh, I'm just going to lie because this is allowed. Like it's not like that. Most ex-Muslims learn about this once they leave Islam. All right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she's asking, is it connected to jihad?
Well, I mean, this was not that big of a deal in Islam. It was a huge deal for Shias living under Sunni rule, and it became a big deal because Shias were allowed by their religious leaders to say that they're Sunni so that they don't get persecuted by the Sunnis. So because it had such a huge utility for Shias, then it became bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was more things were added to it because it was such a focus within Shia Islam. I'm not saying some Sunnis don't believe in this and don't use it. Sometimes they do. It's just not a major highlight, and it's big. It's a bigger deal in Shia Islam. Some Sunnis have even similar views to Shias about it, but not that many. But it's not like a major thing that like we know the things in Islam that are influences Muslim behavior are usually other things, and they're all bad and poisonous and disgusting and problematic. But Muslims don't go around that thinking about this as much as, for example, being anti-LGBT. I don't know, being focusing on fighting for hijab. These are the things that are like occupying their mind in Western. Maybe now, some being anti-democracy, being anti-liberalism. These are the things that are their minds are being focused on. Taqiyya is not something that they're thinking about as much. Maybe someday they will. These things usually shift, but not right now.
So moral of the story is don't run around accusing random Muslims or ex-Muslims of takia because it makes you sound stupid and like you don't know what you're talking about. Frankly,
Yeah.
because we see that all the time and it's so cringe. Um, Sid gave a super chat saying hijab or whatever variation of it should be banned outright. No need to dress like 7th century Arabs and 20th century France. Also, main purpose of hijab is to prevent Muslim women from dating French men. I'm too much of a libertarian for this, frankly. Like,
Why?
if
What?
someone wants to wrap their head, let them wrap their head. Now, if can have a conversation about if this should be in the civic servant area arena or not. But
Yeah, said like I me and Susie are anti-hijab, but we don't want to we don't want to ban everything that we don't like. Like what the hell? Like this is too much government involvement. That you just like, oh, I don't like the hijab. Well, let's ban it. Well, I don't like sugar. Should we ban sugar? I don't like, I don't know, but you can't. Should we have? Hey, sis, should we get government officials into every household watching if everybody is finishing their vegetables, because vegetables are good for you? Like, what is this? What is this with? Like, seriously, like you're sounding like a far right leftist with this level of government involvement in our personal lives.
and like
I agree
there
that the
are
hijab is bad, but bad doesn't mean that it should be illegal. But go on.
there are way more harmful culturally based traditions that I'm much more concerned about banning before we get to hijab. Let's start with circumcision, okay? Let's start there. We can go worry about hijab later. The harm of
Yes.
circumcision vastly outweighs the harm of hijab. Not that there is not harm, but like, come on, let's focus on what some big ticket items first, okay? Sid gave another super chat saying France should have also made fun of Muhammad's night journey, but they won't dare. They only make fun of religions they know won't come after them. Making this accusation against France is such bad faith. You know who Charlie Hebdo is. You know that the French government has stood solidly behind Charlie Hebdo. They literally projected Charlie Hebdo cartoons onto government buildings, which itself was very controversial because it has a connotation to it, especially in regards to laïcité. So this is not a fair accusation.
It's not. And
France
also,
has paid
yes,
heavily for how principled they have been on the issue of blaspheming Islam. Don't people lost many people have lost their lives over it.
right.
And not even and this is past the Charlie Hebdo attack. French citizens have continued to lose their lives over this. So this is completely unfair and really disrespectful to those people and the other people within French society that take a hard line against this kind of thing. To say they wouldn't dare. Come on. You know better than this.
Yes. And thank you for the super chat. But also, everything you said is correct, and also it's not fair. There's another reason why this is unfair to France, because when France stood up to the Catholic Church was not as toothless as it is right now. So they were standing against the Catholic Church where it wasn't easy. Like you're like, oh, they only attacking Christianity because it's easy. Well, when they did it, it wasn't that easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So and also Sid gave another super chat saying not a fan of male circumcision, but it should not be banned. It should be done by a doctor, not a
Oh,
priest. In Africa, it makes sense due to high HIV prevalence. My understanding
oh
is this
crap.
whole idea about it preventing HIV and
It's
STDs is
nonsense.
completely false. It's
Wow.
completely false. It is a non-medically necessary in most cases. There are some rare exceptions in which
Very rare cases.
very rare circumstances in which it is necessary. The vast majority of the time, it's completely unmedically necessary. I believe it's genital mutilation. I do not care about excuses or justification on the basis of culture, aesthetics, or religion. That is unacceptable to me. We find it unacceptable in the case of female genital mutilation. Under those exact same justifications, we find it to be unexcusable. So to me, it's really no different. It's really no different.
This is an embarrassing. Why don't you wait for me to give my opinion? Don't stop
Oh,
highlighting
sorry.
it. This is an embarrassing position, Sid. What are you talking about? Imagine like you're like, oh yeah, let's make the hijab illegal, but you're when it comes to actual violent barbarism, mutilating infants, you're like, oh yeah, let's keep that illegal. Yeah, okay, your priorities are completely out of place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's even acknowledging that no adult would get it done. It can only be inflicted on young children, which makes it so much worse. Like,
Unbelievable.
oh my
Yeah,
god.
let's do it to you when you can't defend yourself.
Like, I literally do not
Or
care about, I mean, and this is my personal opinion. I do not care about any justification about why people need to get it done. I do not care about your covenant. This is a violation of that child's rights.
this should be criminal. People should go to
Yeah.
jail. The doctor and the parents who do both male and female circumcision should go to jail for this. And the doctor's license should be completely removed from anybody. This is what the law that I would support. The parents who do this to their children should go to jail, and the doctor should also go to jail and their license removed from them,
Oh,
both for
100%.
boys and girls.
Yeah. John Bundak gave a super chat saying, Armin, stop your cultural himboism this instant now. He's calling you like a
What is
man
it?
bimbo. I don't know why. I think he's
I don't know
joking.
what that means.
A himbo is like a male bimbo.
Okay, but I
Yeah.
don't understand the arguments here, so I don't.
Yeah,
know what
me
to
neither,
respond.
but it's okay. I think it's a joke. And I also love people jumping to my defense. The mother of our nation, defend the queen. Jack Johnson gave a super chat saying, are religious symbols on flags bad and against secularism, such as the cross in Nordic countries, the moon in Muslim countries, Israel's flag, and India's flag? Well, obviously, this is not the case for France. And this was like the real subject at hand because of their interpretation of laïcité. Wait, what do you think about?
I'm in favor
Actually,
of
Nordic countries are not 100% secular because they have like official state churches. Actually,
yeah, I'm
they're
against
just
that.
kind of an
I'm
anachronism.
yeah, I'm in favor of removing official state religions, and I'm also in favor of removing religious symbols for flags. And people constantly remove symbols for their flags left and right, so it is done. So I see why not do it here. I'm in favor of that.
Um.
I'm not saying it will
Uh.
happen. There's not enough political force behind it, but if it happens, I will celebrate.
Sid Dave gave a super chat saying, I think it is the HOW do say that it reduces HIV acquisition by 50%. There is some data to support it, and they recommend it in Africa only. Again, I am against it.
Bullcrap.
Yeah.
Bullcrap. No, bullcrap. We had an expert on secular jihadists came and dismissed all of this. This is all nonsense. No, this is not true. This is
What's his name? It's
misinformation.
Brian Ernst or something. I think that's his name. It's Brian Ernst Circumcision. I think, yeah, he's done really, really good work on this. Oh man, I wish I could find his name so that people could actually go look up his work on this.
Just search for secular jihadist circumcision. We have a really good podcast with that guy. He goes over all of this data in great detail. So go there.
Gasian American gave a super chat saying circumcision is a sin in Ruism because you're not allowed to damage the property of your ancestors.
I like how they call your penis the property of your ancestors.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Excuse me, this is all mine. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Okay. Well, it's where the next generation comes from, I guess. John Bunduck gave another super chat saying joke references to your art drag takes, Armin. Oh, so yeah, it was a joke. I figured that.
I mean, I'm not saying drag art is tasteless. I was just saying this one was cheap and tasteless. Not that you drag art could be done in a much more elegant way as well. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.